Sorry, technical hitch. I couldn't get the title to go on today. There you go. Have I got anybody there? Hello. Is there anybody out there? Oh, got one. Who else have we got there? I'll just hang on a couple of minutes. I'm sorry, I had a bit of a technical hitch getting the phone to work just now. Who have I got at the moment? Anybody? Oh, Anita and Emily, hello. How are you? Got anybody else out there? I had trouble getting my phone to take the title of today's one. Oh, we've got somebody else now. Hello, Morwenna. Nice to see you. I'm sorry I'm a bit late today. I just had a bit of a technical hitch. For anyone new, I will start in a minute, but I always just start for a few minutes saying hello to people before I start teaching. Michael, hi, how are you? I'm okay, thank you. I've had a nice walk this morning by a stream in Truro, so that was all very nice. And I'm teaching someone this afternoon, private lessons, so that's good as well. Got anybody else out there at the moment? And if not, we'll start. So, my apologies for being a few minutes late. Please like and share this after you've watched, or even right now is good because it gets more people looking, so do hop on and do that. Hi again, Anita, that's nice to see you. Okay, we're going to do a couple of things today. I've been writing myself some new signs and reconfiguring my art room a little bit. So this was from the other day when we did about colour matching, and you might not even be able to see, but this is a real photograph this side, and this is when I've colour matched and painted across. So that was the last lesson we did. So that's a good practice thing to do. And then I've been redoing my signs and my boards and things. So this is the website. If you want to find me, www.artatthebeach.co.uk, and this is all about the art lessons: 3-hour progress, 10-year-old girl in sketch, 3 hours on perspective, 3 hours on paint, 5-lesson progress, 90-year-old stroke victim, 4-lesson progress, 50-year-old German lady, 3-lesson progress, 40-year-old Sri Lankan man. So I'll just say that as I always do. So I'll just move that out of the way, and then we shall begin for today. So I'm going to take a clean sheet of paper, oops, and throw everything around everywhere. So one clean sheet of paper, and I'll stick that up there so you can see what I'm doing. And then I've just grabbed a few sheets out of some magazines. Now, obviously, you could have a whole magazine, but you just need photos and colour, basically. And I've got a lot of blue and cream here, just because of the pictures that I've chosen. So I've also got quite a lot of green just here. So I might actually do a landscape. So you could make this anything, but what you're going to do is take some glue, and I've got some glue today that's working, and you're going to put some glue either on the paper, or alternatively you could put it on each piece of magazine as we use it. But to begin with, I'm just going to put this on the paper because I think for me, for today, that's going to be the easier way round. Now this is a bit old, this glue, so it's not exactly the best, but it will do for this occasion. And you could use any sort of glue. You could use wallpaper glue, you could use Pritt sticks. I'm just using this up because I've got it. So again, everything I do, my idea is to give you ideas, and also at this time when we're all stuck at home more, I think a case of using up old stuff isn't such a bad idea. So I wouldn't be ordering everything new on Amazon or anything unless you absolutely have to. I would just be using stuff up like this glue, which is definitely getting a bit on the manky side. Right, so first of all I'm going to do the sky. Now I could be really lazy and tear the whole sky off, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to rip bits off and stick them on to make the sky for my picture. And I could be using all sorts of different blue magazines. It doesn't have to all be from one picture. So I'm going to use a bit of the blue from this one as well, from the sky. And you don't only have to use sky for sky. You could use some of the sea for the sky as well, because it would be the right kind of colour. And I'm sticking these bits on and I'm just ripping them off at random. You could cut them very regularly into little squares or something if you wanted to as well. Or you could just rip up before you even started and put piles of different colours. So I'm just ripping up my sky and doing it. So I'm going to do this really quickly. And I need a bit more sky tones, so here we go. And I'm tearing slightly bigger pieces now just to get this to happen quicker. And basically, oops, I'm getting myself a kind of blue sky happening here. Oh, sorry. I was throwing you on the floor, that wasn't my best idea. There we go. My prop isn't working very well today. There we go. So you can see, hello Pamela, you can see the sky materialising by sticking all the blue bits onto it. And I am using sky to do sky, but there's no reason you should. It just happened that I was thinking I'd do a little landscape based on the colours that I've got here on the magazines that I've got to rip up. So you could spend an afternoon just ripping up magazines into different colourways and then make pictures or collages, or almost like mosaic pictures out of magazines by using the colours from the magazine. Alright, so I'm going to say for my sky that I'm pretty much there now. So that's my sky done in blue. I'm going to turn this though into a picture with hills and things. So as we go into the distance, the colours become less. So I'm actually tearing the greeny bluey bit, there's a browny greeny blue bit out of my sea here. So although in this picture it's the sea, in my new picture it's actually going to be the distant hills, because it's quite a washed out colour. So I've torn out the greeny blue bit and I'm going to make my distant hills overlaying my sky like this, using this, and I'm using the shapes that I'm tearing as a way of disguising my wonky edges there. And so this is like a bluey green, which is going to sit further back into the horizon. You don't want something too bright in the distance. So that's my first row of hills. And I'm just going to sneak a bit of glue under that bit that's flapping a bit. There we go. And then I've got this bit here. I'm going to stick that bit there to be a bit more of the hills there. And you can see we're getting a bit of depth to this picture now. Now I'm going to choose something else from my magazines. What else have I got here in these pictures? I'm actually going to use some of this rock now that's from this picture here. I'm going to start tearing that up and making that into my next row of hills and rocks coming forward. And so now this is starting to look more like a mountain range than the cliff it originally was. Now I'm tearing a few much bigger pieces just to do this picture quicker. You could tear them much, much smaller and worry more about the colour. So if I put that there, and I'm now going to tear another bit of these rocks here, put that across there, and I'm laying on top each time as I come forward, because that gives you more depth of field. And there's my picture gradually coming forward. The next row of hills and things that I'm going to do, I'm going to use the much lighter colours that I've got here. So I'm using this more skin tone beachy colour here, and then that's going to bring me even further forward in my picture. So I'm going to start tearing up some of this picture now and using some of that yellowy browny from the back as well to be forward a bit. Now my bits are getting bigger and bigger. They shouldn't be really necessarily, but again, it doesn't really matter. It's got to be what you fancy doing. It's your picture. And the rules are more in your imagination than they are a reality. You can make your own rules for your own picture. So here's my picture coming forward, and you can see I'm building up all the colour and contrast using up torn up bits of picture, which I'm bringing forward using the brighter and stronger colours forward. I'm just going to put a bit more glue, and I'm just going to put that there so I've got something more to stick on, because I've pretty much run out of all my glue now. So there we go, and this is going to be the next layer forward, and I might even let some of these hills cross over some of the things in the background. That's a bit of the lady's dress going on there now to be another bit, almost like a valley that we're looking down here into the distance. And I can use a bit from the other side of this picture here. Yeah, this lady's got a nice brown bit I can use. That was actually her chin. Her chin has now been reconfigured into a bit of the foreground here. And I'm going to use this poor lady here, her forehead, to be the next bit of the foreground. Oh, that's quite funny actually, sorry, that wasn't meant to be a deliberate pun, forehead and foreground. There we go. And you can see the entire picture starting to come forward in layers. Now, I just dropped a bit of her down here. Now she's got nice dark brown hair in this picture. So I could use a pair of scissors, but I'm going to be a bit lazy and just use my fingers and rip. And I'm going to turn this nice dark hair from this lady here into the beginning of a tree. So her hair has now started to become a bit of tree, and I'm going to stick my tree over here, standing on my hill on the right. Now obviously my glue is pretty disgusting and pretty old, but I'm going to just stick it there. And here goes the tree sitting on the hill on the edge of my picture now. And if I just wipe a bit of that glue down there, you can see the tree starting to sit in front of our view. And I've got some more dark hair here from this other lady, so I'm going to borrow a bit of that to be some more of my tree. So it's a case of seeing one thing and turning it into something new and something exciting. And also, because that was hair, look at all the interesting colour tones and textures in it. So I'm going to rip a couple of thin bits of that to be the branches. And as long as I get some glue on them first, I could make that now become part of a tree, as you can see, that's laying right over my picture. And I could keep building it up like that. So basically I've managed to use 2 seascapes and 2 lovely ladies, and I'm turning them gradually into a view. And I'm going to bring the picture over to you, because I think if I do it the other way around, and you can see we've got the blue sky, we've got layers of hills I've kept coming forward, and I'm starting to put the tree on top, and we're using all the colours and textures to get this kind of depth of field. Now you could do that using magazines, you could do a face with it, you could do anything you like. Tonight, a few weeks ago we did one with blossom, or last week we did one with cherry blossom and things. So we could tear little bits of her teeth and her mouth to make, say, blossom for the trees, because once we tear them down small enough, nobody will realise what they are, and they'll just see it as colour of pink and white, and then they, in their mind's eye, will start turning it into blossom or leaves or whatever it was. So you could do that. If you wanted to be a bit weirder, when I was at school, I used to love an artist called Salvador Dali. So you could do something quite conventional, just build up a three-dimensional picture by overlaying and overlaying torn up bits of picture. If you like Picasso or Salvador Dali or any of those ones, who were ones who have very distinct styles, we could do the same sort of thing, chopping up magazines again, but this time we could maybe use her eyes here, and I could cut those out, and I've still got an eye from the other lady on the other side, and if I cut them into a sort of petal shape like that using her eyebrow and eye, it's actually her eye still, but I could make a series of those, making up, say, almost butterfly wings, or I could make them into a flower, or anything you like. So you're taking a real thing, an eye, but you're using it in an unusual way to build up potentially a flower or something else. Another one that I did when I was at art school many years ago was we actually chopped up magazines using one lady's eyes, another lady's mouth and things, and we made a Picasso picture. So that could even be the middle of my flower there with that one eye. And then obviously I could have cut out and drawn other eyes, so it would have ended up with a picture that had all the petals like this if it was a continued round to be the flower, but it's actually made up this time with eyes. Now that's more surreal and a bit more strange, but it's quite good fun to build something up. You could do the entire picture with different people's coloured eyes to get all the different textures and colours. Not surrealist, but Picasso's art, we did at art school where we chopped up one person's face, well, about 3 different people's faces, and stuck them together to create one face. So you could, for example, take this child's eyes but mix it together with somebody else's mouth, and then you get all the distortions of Picasso. So this is collaging using magazine pictures, chopping them up, ripping them up, building them up either into a picture that you make up. You could then draw more and paint more onto it. Quite a nice effect if you do something like this is then to paint it with PVA glue at the end, and then it sticks it all down, and it virtually becomes something old-fashioned that used to be done called decoupage. And they used to cover chairs and wooden tables and trays. I did a tray that my daughter has, and I chopped up all old adverts and stuck them all over and glued them down, and then finally varnished it all in, and it actually made the most beautiful tray. If you've got interesting napkins or greetings cards or something, you could do that sort of thing as well. Or you could use a whole lot of old greetings cards and cut different elements out and make your own picture. So all of that is to do with just having the imagination to use the textures and colours and shapes and details of pictures, chopping them up, tearing them apart, putting them back together in a new form. Okay, the other one we're going to do today is on a similar theme but not quite the same, which was I asked you to have a picture of a lizard. And the reason for that is similar. So the two ideas come together, which is, I've lost my other magnet now, never mind. Where did I put that down? I'll take this one down and put this one up with the magnet and do it in there. So with this one, you need to draw a lizard first. Now I'll draw it in text, sorry, that was Australian, felt pen, but basically only so you can see it. So if you first of all drew a lizard from a picture, again, like I've taught you before, break it into its component parts, but say that might be its tail, and then it's got its head up here, and then it's got its legs with its claws and its other leg here, let's say, and there's its body. So roughly speaking, I've drawn you there a very, very vague lizard. And there's not a lot of detail yet because at this moment I don't want it. And I would have drawn this in very, very fine pencil in a very light line. So I wasn't at this stage committed. Then what you can do is you could obviously fill it in with the idea of collaging. But another idea, which is quite good fun, is to actually, instead of taking the textures and patterns and things from the magazine, is actually go out in your garden. And I found I've got these shells in my garden. I seem to have got some bugs in here as well that I wasn't expecting. And I've got this shell here with all these lovely patterns. If you go for a walk, you might find some fir cones. They've got fantastic patterns on them. And even things like this. I went downstairs and got my cheese grater, and it's got fantastic textures and patterns to it. So with this, we've got two options. One is that you could now, instead of only going for colour, you could actually take a sheet of paper and do some rubbings where you laid the paper on top of the grater in this case, and then using a coloured crayon or pencil or whatever you fancied, if you then rubbed over the surface of it like so, you can get again some fantastic textures and patterns that you could then rip up or cut up to be part of your picture. So you could do it that way. But the other thing you could do would be to say with a fir cone, you know how a fir cone has those beautiful overlaying scalloped edges. Maybe if you looked at the fir cone, you could then design your scalloped edges to turn this lizard now into a dragon. You could use the details of the fir cone to show you how to detail the scales that you'd want to turn a lizard into a dragon. Now the point of this is that to draw something unreal like a dragon, you're much better to start with something real like a lizard, and then use something like a fir cone that you might find on one of your walks, and use the colour and shade of the fir cone to do, say, the scales on your lizards. So if I do this really quickly, you can imagine I've made my lizard now using a fir cone. I'm making him all scaly. For, say, the back of him, where he might have that kind of frill bit that you often see on dragons, possibly I could use broccoli from the fridge and copy the pattern of the broccoli, but maybe in the wrong colour, to actually give him the patterning of the frill bit that runs down the back of his neck and his tail. So basically I could use the shape of broccoli along that line there to give you that bit down his back. And maybe his toenails could be fork fronds. So by using real fork and looking at what a fork looks like, and maybe the bit that the fork fronds connected to, that could be his feet. And then here we could go back to the scales from the fir cone again. But all the time, like a police detective, you'd be checking your information, but you might deliberately do him in the wrong colours. So his broccoli shapes might now be in purple to make him a bit more scary. And for his eye, you could even possibly collage on an eye from a magazine. So this one's going to be a friendly dragon. And he doesn't look too scary at the moment, I don't think. And he's certainly not breathing any fire. He looks a bit more like a bird at the moment. But the idea being that you bring together a whole lot of unreal things and unreal textures and unreal... This is a very strange looking dragon, I do apologise. And you could collage onto it, but just even using unusual things, or by taking rubbings of things, using different colours, by bringing these ideas together, you can create something much better than if you use it all from your imagination. So today I'm just going to take a little bit of this off, and I'm thinking that would have actually made quite a good snake skin or something. And by rubbing it like that, this piece here, it could be like barbed wire fencing in the front of a picture. So I could have drawn the picture and then rubbed over it and got that for kind of like, not barbed wire, the metal fencing. But even if I stuck this on my dragon and used that for his skin, you can get some really lovely effects. And I could have done him in greens and browns and whatever. And it might be that even in the magazine you found something, like just for a bit of silly fun, I could use these teeth and give the dragon some very strange but real looking teeth. So it's a mixture of rubbing, cutting out, and also using real things in different ways, in unreal ways, and you actually get some really quite fun things. So let's see how he looks with his new dentures, my dragon. Let's hope they're going the right direction for him. Oh, they are. There we go. So we could even stick his silly teeth in here, and now he's got some very unusual teeth for a dragon. So it's a combination of using magazines to get your colours and build up a new picture altogether. As I said, if you want to be more like decoupage, you could then overlay that with some more glue, and the glue will dry clear if it's PVA glue, and then varnish it in, and that's almost like decoupage and collage. You could do the one where I was making patterns with the eye and things out of eyes. You could make a whole picture with whatever you like. It could be hair, it could be anything that you used. You could make a waterfall picture using pictures with hair in it and things to be the waterfall. And don't always think that everything has to be the real colour, because sometimes it's fun to do things slightly the wrong colours. And the idea here was to make a lizard turn into a dragon by using patterns and textures of real things around you, and then drawing those really carefully, and definitely drawing a better head for your dragon than I've done there. Let me just do a bit of adjusting to him. I think even if he looked a bit more like a crocodile at the end there, that would be better, wouldn't it? So if I give him a bit of a eyes there, and give him a longer nose with a... There you are. He still looks a bit weird, but he looks a bit more like a dragon maybe. So whatever it is you want to do, if you want a fantasy picture, make it up of real things. So if you were doing a fantasy view, make it up with a real view maybe in mind, but maybe change all the colours and maybe make the plants different and things like that. But always start with something real and put it together in an unreal way, and you get some really good effects. And also this is a really good exercise for playing with colours and textures and realising that you can make completely new pictures that look really amazing out of pictures that were something else completely in the first place. So I hope that gives you a fair few ideas to go away with today. As I said, I like giving people ideas that you can play with. So one way and another, collaging things together, putting them together in unreal ways, using real things to create an unreal dragon or whatever it is you want to do, works better usually than just sitting down cold trying to draw something, because if nothing else your ideas start sparking off one another. So I hope you found that interesting. I look forward to seeing you again on Sunday, and I hope you're all enjoying this spectacular weather. Take care of yourselves, please like and share, and if you want to do something for me, make a donation to the NHS, or even better as well for me, put something nice on my Facebook page, or my TripAdvisor, which is Art at the Beach Newquay, because that gets me other clients. For all of you, I think you already know, but if anyone new listens to this later in the day, then please would you be so kind as to put those kind of comments up, because that gives people the chance to know what I'm about. But I am also doing short lessons if someone just wants advice on a picture, and then I do the whole course, which I do anytime with anyone. So there you go. Right, lots to think about. Go and enjoy chopping up and sticking down, and don't do it always with purpose. Sometimes just do it for the sheer fun of it, and then something might come out of it. Other times really focus on something. Take care, see you all soon. Bye.